After her mother died, Mara inherited a farmhouse from a man she had never heard of. But inside the house were 31 letters written to her by the father she never knew existed.
Some inheritances arrive as gifts, some arrive as questions, and some arrive as the kind of truth that makes you realize everything you believed about yourself was only half the story. Mara Calloway was 32 years old and had never questioned who she was. She grew up in Edinburgh, a careful childhood in a terraced house on Marchmont Road with two parents who loved her steadily and without spectacle. Her father, Gordon, taught history at a secondary school. Her mother, Beth, worked part-time at the council library. They were not wealthy people, but they were present people, the kind who came to every school play, remembered the names of her friends, and left notes in her packed lunch long after she was old enough to pretend she hated it. Mara inherited their steadiness. She became a structural engineer, precise, methodical, someone who trusted what could be measured and verified. She lived alone in Leith, ran beside the water of Leith twice a week, cooked on Sundays, and called her mother every few days without fail. Beth died in February. The illness moved quickly. In her final hours, Beth held Mara's hand and whispered, "There is something I should have told you a long time ago," and then closed her eyes before she could finish. Mara waited beside the bed for 6 more hours. Beth never woke up. Mara carried the unfinished sentence home with her and tried to believe it meant nothing important. She believed that for 3 months. Then a letter arrived from a solicitor in Inverness. A man named Ewan Calloway had died in January at 61. He had left no immediate family. In his will, he had left his entire estate to Mara Calloway of Edinburgh. The estate was a stone farmhouse in the Highlands, 12 isolated acres, a place called Ardnish. The surname struck her first. Calloway, the same surname. A man her parents had never mentioned, a house left specifically to her. Sitting alone at her kitchen table, Mara felt something settle quietly into place. The engineer in her wanted an explanation. The daughter in her remembered her mother's unfinished sentence. Ewan Calloway had not been a stranger at all. She drove north on a Thursday in May. Ardnish sat 3 hours north of Edinburgh, the last stretch reached by a single-track road cutting through empty moorland beneath an enormous sky. The landscape felt less like scenery and more like a question. Are you certain you want to know? The farmhouse was old grey stone, built low into the hillside. A burn ran behind it, audible through the open car window. The glen spread below in fading afternoon light. Mara sat in the car for several minutes before going inside. The solicitor had mailed her a key. The house smelled faintly of wood smoke and old paper. The rooms were modest: a kitchen, a sitting room with a stove, a single bedroom, and a study. Books lined every wall. In the center sat a desk, and on it a wooden box with her name written carefully across the lid. Mara Calloway. She opened it. Inside were 31 letters, every one addressed to her. The earliest dated the year she was born, the most recent written 3 weeks before Ewan died. None had been sent. They were not correspondence. They were a record, the private account of a man who had watched a life from a distance and needed somewhere to place what that cost him. The first letter was dated March 14th, her birthday. It began, "I will not send this. I made a promise and I intend to keep it. But you were born today and I needed to write your name somewhere. Mara, your mother chose it. I would have chosen the same." Mara read the sentence 3 times. Your mother, not Beth. The second letter named a woman called Fiona, young, frightened, unable to keep her child. Ewan wrote about a decision made in a hospital room 32 years earlier, a decision he had spent the rest of his life trying to survive. Mara sat at the desk for hours while daylight slowly left the glen. She read about a man who had given her away, not because he did not want her, but because at 29, broke and directionless, He believed two steady people could give her a safer life than he could. He had watched from afar ever since. Not obsessively. There were no photographs, no invasions, only fragments. Enough to know whether she was all right, whether she was loved, whether he had done the right thing. Beneath every letter sat the same unwritten sentence: "I am sorry."
Mara stayed at Ardnish for 4 days. She had planned only one night, but the house seemed to ask for patience. She moved through it slowly, the bookshelves, the garden gone wild at the edges, the tools carefully stored in the outbuilding. Everywhere she looked, she found evidence of someone who had expected to remain there for a long time. On the second day, she found photographs, not of her, of him. Ewan Calloway stood on the hillside above the farmhouse, hands in his pockets, looking over the glen with the stillness of someone more accustomed to watching than being seen. Mara thought constantly about Beth's unfinished sentence: "There is something I should have told you." Beth had known. Of course she had. She and Gordon had carried this secret for 32 years and loved her through all of it. Mara tried to feel angry. She could not. What she felt instead was grief for the conversation that never happened, and tenderness for the woman who had tried, at the very end, to tell the truth. Underneath both emotions sat a quieter question. Who was she now? She was still Gordon and Beth's daughter. Nothing could undo that. But she was also the daughter of a man named Ewan, who had spent 31 birthdays writing letters he would never send, because he believed he had surrendered the right to love her openly. On the third evening, Mara walked up the hillside from the photographs. The Highland light turned everything gold and distant, as if the world were remembering itself. She stood where Ewan might once have stood and searched for something decisive: anger, forgiveness, closure. What she felt instead was presence, here, on land that carried his name and now carried hers. That evening she called Gordon, her father, her real father, the man who had shown up for 32 years without fail. "I found the letters," she said. A long silence. Then quietly, "I know. Your mum wanted to be the one to tell you." Mara looked out across the darkening glen. "Are you all right?" Gordon asked. She considered the question honestly. "I think so," she said. "I'm standing in his garden. It's very beautiful here." Gordon was silent for a moment. Then he said, "He loved you, in his way. I always knew that." Mara sat on the hillside until the first stars appeared above the mountains. She did not know yet what she would do with Ardnish, whether she would keep it or leave it behind. She did not know if she would ever search for Fiona. There was still so much she did not know, but she understood something now. The letters had not rewritten her life. They had not stolen her history or made her a different person. They had simply added another room to a house she had thought she already knew completely. Later that night, she returned to the study, opened the wooden box again, and reread the first letter. "Mara, your mother chose it. I would have chosen the same." Outside, the Highland dark stretched silent across the glen, and for the first time in her life, Mara Calloway felt exactly the right size for the life she was living.
Mara never found the ending she expected. She only found the truth and a father who loved her from a distance for 32 years. But if you were in her place, would you keep Ardnish and hold on to the letters, or walk away from a past that was never truly yours to begin with?